Good morning. I would like to thank you all for being here today and for allowing me to be here to speak to you about the program that I would like to start in my community. How many of you have ever been faced with or known a woman who has been faced with the diagnosis of breast cancer? I can imagine, and I can only imagine, that that would be one of the most devastating things that a woman could ever face in her life. However, if that woman and her family have the right information about breast cancer, about how it is detected, how it is treated, and how to live life after that diagnosis, that it can make things just a little bit easier. It will help out a whole lot. So the program that I would like to start in my local community is targeted to Pacific Islander women. And it is a program that is designed to educate this population about the disease and to bring their families in and educate them as well. So today I will talk about my plans for that. I will talk about my plans for the implementation and how I would like to sustain the program. And while I am talking, I do want you to keep in mind that Pacific Islanders have a very deep respect for culture and traditions. However, I think that they can still have that respect for their culture and traditions and receive the treatment that they need for breast cancer. So first, I just want to kind of give some information about the disease itself. Around the world, there are 1 million women every year diagnosed with breast cancer. Of those, 400,000 die each year. In America alone, 1 of 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. That's 250,000 women per year. And of those 250,000, 40,000 of them will die to breast cancer. There are risks with breast cancer, some that we can control and some that we can't control. The things that we can't control are family history. So if a woman has a sister or a mother who was diagnosed with breast cancer, especially before the age of 50, that increases that woman's risk of being diagnosed with breast cancer herself. Another risk that a woman has no control over is if one breast is diagnosed as being cancerous, there is the chance that the other breast will be diagnosed at some point as being cancerous as well. Again, another factor that cannot be controlled is if a woman begins her menstrual cycle before the age of 12 years old. Also, if a woman gives birth for the first time after the age of 35. These are all risk factors that increases a woman's chances of getting breast cancer. And these are things that she cannot do anything about. However, on the flip side of that coin, there are risk factors that she can control, such as consuming alcohol. Consuming more than 1 alcoholic drink per day increases the risk of breast cancer. That is something a woman can control. Being overweight, especially after menopause, is something that a woman can control. Physical activity, getting more physical activity into her life, yet again, something that she can do something about. And making sure that she has a diet that is rich in fruits and vegetables is something that a woman can do to decrease her risks of getting breast cancer. I will say, contrary to popular belief, there are things that just don't cause breast cancer. So these myths should be thrown away. And that's going to be implants, deodorant, cell phones, mammograms, wearing bras with underwire, and those things do not cause breast cancer. So, that would be something to get out there to people and just let them know women don't have to worry about that. I will say, though, that breast cancer is usually thought of as a disease that only affects women. However, men do get breast cancer. And surprisingly, the mortality rate for men is higher than it is for women based on percentages. And this is most likely due to the fact that it's just not a huge awareness of breast cancer in men. And also, if a man recognizes a lump in his chest area, he's not going to automatically associate it with breast cancer as a woman would. So that awareness and that delay in doing something about a lump that may be found is going to delay detection, it's going to delay treatment, and unfortunately that is what will lead to death in men from breast cancer. But even at that, women are still found 100 times, breast cancer is still found 100 times more frequently in women than it is in men. So as if the diagnosis of breast cancer itself is not enough, there are other challenges that some women face. So women who live in low and middle income areas don't always have the proper funding and facilities or equipment to receive the routine mammograms that are so necessary and so important. In places like this, breast cancer is usually diagnosed too late, so the women receive ineffective treatment and pain relief, and a lot of times they end up losing the battle to breast cancer. So when talking about the target population for my program, Pacific Islander women, they have their own set of challenges in addition to the breast cancer diagnosis itself. And that can be personal and cultural behaviors. And again, also they may have a comorbidity, another illness, or unemployment, transportation, lack of insurance. These are all things that contribute to just being additional challenges for a woman who has been diagnosed with breast cancer. The cultural beliefs are very deeply rooted in women of this population. These women are also very modest, and so sometimes that modesty can cause them to not want to disrobe to be able to go and get a mammogram. So of course, this is another delay in detecting the breast cancer and treating the breast cancer. And again, sometimes they fall victim to the disease because it's not treated, it's not caught in time. There's also sometimes a lack of information. This is another reason why sometimes women do not get screenings and do not get the proper treatment that they need. So in talking about cultural beliefs, Pacific Islander women feel that sickness is something that's only really an issue if it keeps her from doing the things she needs to do for her family. If she can still take care of her family, it may not get the urgency that it needs. But when it starts to interfere with her duties of her family, then and only then do they feel it's necessary to seek care. Among Tongan women, the women from Tonga, they think that the reasons for sickness is the basis of the type of treatment that you get. For example, if there's an illness or a natural cause or a spirit that is departing the body, then a cultural medical practitioner is called. A Samoan woman may rely on traditional Samoan remedies for routine illnesses, but those same remedies is what they use to treat cancer. There's also the belief that there's little or nothing that can stop breast cancer, and a lot of times some of this bad information just comes from public ads and things that they see on the internet. They often associate cancer with a sure sentence of death, which could also be a reason why they don't seek treatment. So they misunderstand the disease. They think that they compare cancer to HIV and AIDS, which shows that they don't really understand the disease itself. Samoan women also thought that not wearing a bra could cause breast cancer. This led them to delay in getting screenings and the exams. Sometimes the women of this culture think that being hit in your breast area will cause breast cancer. So a large number of Samoans' lack of knowledge was at one point thought to be the fact that they didn't get much education about the disease, but then it was realized that cancer was just something that wasn't even known to this culture. And they thought it was something that was brought by people from the West. But now they do have their own word that describes this disease. But the false knowledge about the disease still sometimes clashes with those traditions and those cultural beliefs. So there is work to be done in this population when it comes to breast cancer. So Westerners believe that early detection. However, thanks to lots of research and advances in medicine, women do have hope after being diagnosed with breast cancer. Oftentimes, a second opinion is warranted. It is often recommended by a doctor, and the good thing for women is that it is paid for by insurance companies. If necessary, a woman can have the cancerous tumor removed and the area closest to it. And this is, it depends on what the woman and her doctor chooses as part of her treatment plan, but this is just another thing that goes to show that the diagnosis is not sure death. Chemotherapy, which is where very, very strong drugs are used to kill the cancerous cells and all the cells that are around the cancerous tumor, that is an option. Radiation treatment, which is where high energy X-rays are used to kill the malignant tissue, that is an option. Removal of the entire breast itself is an option. And then even at that, there's options for implants and for other things that will help with the woman's appearance, so that after she has gone through the surgery and the chemotherapy and the treatment, she can still feel good about herself and have psychological well-being. There are other facts too that are associated with breast cancer that are positive facts. There's lots and lots of information, free resources for women who are diagnosed with breast cancer and their families. And because of this, there are over 3 million breast cancer survivors in America. One of those 3 million survivors of breast cancer in America is my sister. Fortunately, there's a slow decrease in breast cancer in women 50 and older that has been noted in the past few years, and there are fewer deaths since 1990. These triumphs are thought to be due to more effective screening, earlier detection of the disease, and just widespread awareness. More people are getting involved. More people are learning as much as they can about the disease. Outreach programs also give hope to women who are dealing with breast cancer. Many of these programs promote more awareness and education and screening, and they include the families, because when you have the support of the family, that's just more people that's going to remind you to get those screens and do all the things that you need to do. One of the places here in the local area is the Pacific Islander Cancer Control Network, and they work to help Pacific Islander women understand the importance of screenings and treatment and develop better cancer programs. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer back in 1997, which is why this topic is very, very important to me. She was 41 years old when she was diagnosed, and she and her doctor decided that they would just take the one breast that was cancerous. So that's what they did. And over the years, she has monitored the breast that she has remaining, and there has not been any cancer in it. So that's been over 20 years. However, her diagnosis places me at a higher risk for breast cancer. So she was diagnosed at 41. I started receiving my mammograms at 31 because you're supposed to get it 10 years younger than the relative was when they were diagnosed. And I've had a few tense moments where I would get called back for repeat exams where something didn't look right on the exam and the doctor just wanted to re-examine me again. And I even had a biopsy not too long ago, and I will tell you that alone is pretty scary. It's a pretty tense feeling. So this is why it is so important for us to make sure that we educate as many people as we can. So breast cancer is the most prevalent cancer diagnosed in women in Hawaii, and the state's second most common cause of cancer-related deaths. It is responsible for a high number of deaths in minorities and women in low-income situations. Regular screenings could prevent these deaths in this population. And considering some of the barriers that these women have, one of the main intents of my program is to ensure that the volunteers who are serving these women understand that yes, they do have these cultural beliefs and these traditions that can sometimes help them, that can sometimes deter them from getting the treatment that they need. But if I have people who understand those traditions, but who also understand the disease and how to have it screened for and detected and treated, You put those two together, and I think this can be a very successful program. So I want to dig back into some of my the things I've learned here and use the health belief model to build my program. This model proves to be very effective at helping people to reach goals, and it's because it centers around the idea that a specific action will give a specific and expected outcome. This model was created like 60 years ago when there was a group of doctors that wanted to conduct a study to try and explain why people would or would not participate in health services that they had right there available to them. It's helpful in encouraging people to follow health practices that will decrease the chances of becoming ill or dying from an illness at a reasonable cost. And cost in this sense is the cost of cultural, educational, and other barriers that have proven to stop people from getting care in the past. So the success of my program is going to rely on the establishment of realistic short and long-term goals. So one short-term goal that I have is to partner with healthcare providers and professionals in the community that have a good understanding of, like I said, first of all, the cultural beliefs and practices of Pacific Islander women. That way, and the way that I plan to do this is to advertise, what I want my program to be, and ask for trained people such as the doctors and the nurses and social workers who have experience and who have an interest in working in my program on a voluntary basis. Once I get a really good team of professionals who want to do this with me, we would review the data that we collect that is going to show us the needs of the Pacific Islander women in Hawaii with breast cancer. So the whole purpose of this program is to bring awareness and to educate. So as this program progresses, the long-term goal that I have is to see an increase in breast cancer screenings in this population and a decrease in deaths. I would also like for there to be an increased understanding of the behaviors of the Pacific Islander women. And then what I really would like to get out of this is strong long-term relationships between Pacific Islanders and the support teams that they built while they were attending this program. I think that it is important for women who are participating in the program who have been diagnosed with breast cancer to be able to talk to one-on-one to other women who have been recently diagnosed with this disease, because they can give them first-hand experience and first-hand advice, something that someone who maybe has not experienced the disease wouldn't be as effective at giving. This is why one of the services that will be offered in this program is for breast cancer survivors to tell their story and how they made it to where they are. These women will be trained, and these are women who will have completed their treatment at least 2 years prior to coming to talk to the women who are newly diagnosed. And the purpose is for them to give them the much needed hope and encouragement to know that they can get through this. Other services that will be provided is just basic information about breast cancer, about the risk factors of it, about how to detect it, how it's treated, and then some of the local services that are offered to women with breast cancer here that other organizations can provide. So I plan to publicize my proposal for the initiation of this program over the radio and the TV and billboards and any kind of social media avenue that I think will get the word out as much as possible, get widest dissemination for us. During the early stages, I would like to work with the leaders of the church where I attend to see if I can use some of our classroom space to hold our sessions. And I'm thinking right now that 3 evenings each week is going to be a good start. Initially, we will gather information about the women in our community in this population for about 6 months that might be interested in coming and hearing some of the things that we have to offer. I do expect for this program to be very successful, and as the years go by, I think that we will need to relocate to a bigger facility. I hope that we will, to accommodate more women and their families. So the efforts of this program would all be for naught if the right information did not get to the people we need it to get to. So I would like to evaluate my program's effectiveness, and to do this, we're going to track the women who participate in our program and make sure that they give us feedback on things that they did and didn't like about the program, and that they will help us figure out if we were right on target with our program as far as the information that we provided. So the data collection method that I plan to use is going to be the mixed mode data collection method, and that's how we're going to get our feedback. The sources of our information and the methods that we use are going to be the people who participated in the program, but I will also get feedback from the volunteers who helped out in the program to see if they have any suggestions on how we can expand this to another population, and how we could even expand our services to do more than what we already are doing. And we will go about this by doing electronic surveys. We'll do some in-person interviews, and we can also send out hard copy questionnaires so that people can kind of take their time and fill them out and send them back in to us. So again, like I mentioned before, I plan to use my church buildings fellowship areas for the first part of the program. I think that is ideal because a lot of the people that I go to church with are Pacific Islanders, and I think that if I start my program there, they will support me by making sure that the word gets out to, their neighbors and their friends and their family members who may be affected by the disease. I also feel like some of them will volunteer to work in the program, which would be great because they would have a great understanding of Pacific Islander cultures and traditions. So that's a win-win for me. Also, using our church facilities will be free of charge. So that would be something that would be to our advantage. So to get started, we will need some kind of financial assistance. And my plan to get that assistance would be to talk to local businesses and see if they would be willing to donate funds or office supplies or some of the things that we'll need to get started. And again, I would ask for that. I would use the low-cost option to make it known that we do need funds. So things like flyers, and again, using the internet and social media, those are helpful ways to get that word out there. So I would say that since I'm going to ask businesses for their money, they're going to be very interested in how this program is going to work. So they are definitely the huge stakeholders in all of this, but the family members are as well. So the feedback that we get from them will be shared with our financial supporters, and hopefully it will make our supporters want to continue helping us bring awareness to this island and all of the islands of Hawaii about breast cancer. So again, breast cancer is a huge health concern worldwide and in America, and yes, right here in beautiful Hawaii. But again, if we educate our women and make sure that they have a lot of information and make sure that their families are involved in getting this information, I think that we can make a difference. This is why it is so important for Pacific Islanders to gain a good understanding of the disease, the detection, the treatment, and how they can win this battle against breast cancer. So I've talked to you today about breast cancer itself, about how it affects Pacific Islander women, about some of the barriers to the women receiving treatment. I've also talked to you about the program that I would like to start and the things that I would do to sustain the program. I will say that having a family member affected by this disease makes it a topic of great concern for me, but I hope that by providing awareness to other families, that we will help to overcome it and continue to help communities around this island, around this state, become stronger when dealing with breast cancer. Thank you.